special presentation of TNN Motorsports. In the American Speed Association's AC-Delco Challenge Series, time is everything. At the season opener in Kenly, North Carolina, it was Miller time as Mike Miller found his way to victory lane. Today, we visit a new venue on the tour, but the best short track drivers in the country are more than up to the task of a new challenge. Whose time will it be today? The clock is ticking. ASA is next. Well, it's a new venue for this traveling band of gypsies known as the American Speed Association and their AC-Delco Challenge Series, Peach State Speedway, a half-mile in Jefferson, Georgia. It's the home for the Wynn 300 today, live on TNN. The weather here in Georgia, just perfect for racing. 71 degrees, not much wind. Sunshine is what we've got forecasted for the rest of the afternoon. Hi, everybody. I'm Ralph Shaheen, joined as always with the AC-Delco Challenge Series by my good pal, Jim Trano over here. Now, Jim, this is the first time you and I have both been here, and for a lot of these drivers, but a handful of them were here once before.
5 drivers were here in 1985. The date was April 28th. It was a 250-lap race won by the late Alan Kowicki. It was a spectacular race. We'll tell you more about that in this race broadcast. But the venue itself is new to ASA, the first of 3 new racetracks for 1997 for the AC-Delco Challenge Series.
Now, we expect to see a lot of the veteran drivers, I would say, making their way towards the front of the field because this track tends to get a little slippery.
And Mike Garvey's now back in the picture running full-time in ASA. He has the most laps around this racetrack. Other drivers have driven super late model specials, but not in ASA cars.
Well, the story on the front of the grid is what Dave Burns has been taking a look at all morning long. He's the 3rd member of our broadcasting crew today.
You know, Ralph, the Peach State Speedway has been a little bit of trouble for some guys. Guys like Brett Bell really benefited from that. He had a great qualifying run on the outside of row number 3. Another guy to watch is Ted Smokestad. He started on the inside of row number 2, and he needed a good start. His effort is still getting momentum for the 1997 season. But the guy on the pole today did a fantastic job once again at a new venue. He was the pole sitter at Cedar Rapids, Iowa, when we went there for the first time, and he's also the pole sitter here today after also being the pole sitter at Lancaster Speedway the very first time we ever went there. Now, Gary, what is this about new tracks and you? Is it just adrenaline, or how come you're on the pole today?
Well, Dave, maybe there's a little bit of adrenaline. You know, I think when you come to a new racetrack for the first time, you know, there's a little more focus on getting the car dialed in and learning the racetrack. And, you know, I don't know, just something about this racetrack kind of come right to us. Started out on a racetrack down in Cincinnati called Queen City Speedway that's something like this, and hopefully today it'll help us out.
Well, guys, and don't forget, Gary's sponsor is the primary sponsor on today's event, so he kind of wanted to do good for those guys, too.
Well, there are a couple of other drivers who are a little deeper in the field, Jim, that normally we would expect to see up front. They had struggled in qualifying, but 17th, 18th, and 19th on the grid, I still think have a shot of winning.
Mike Miller went away with the race last weekend, or 2 weeks ago. We thought he would be the favorite coming in. At his home track, he qualifies 17th. Junior Hanley, who has experience in ASA dating back to 1976, he's outside, only 18th on the grid.
Well, and the one behind them is in 20th. Of course, the black number 88, the Goodwrench Pontiac of Mike Eddy, the 7-time national champion with the American Speed Association. All 3 of those drivers, everybody up front says, look out, here comes a freight train from behind us.
Qualifying has been so close in the American Speed Association. 2/10 separated first from 20th. Holtzhausen starts 20th. He barely got in the field, and only the top 20 cars are on the front stretch pits.
Well, this is only the 2nd race of the 1997 season for ASA, getting a bit of a late start this year, but round number 1 took place in Kenly, North Carolina, the Tar Heel 400. That was a couple of weeks ago. So as you look at the top 10 in points, of course, that's going to reflect exactly how the top 10 finish as they cross the line there. Mike Miller could possibly hold on to that points lead the way he's going to maybe be running here today with this being his home track. Well, that takes care of all the business upstairs. The only thing we got left to do is throw the green flag. How about it, Dave Burns?
Well, if you've been around ASA Racing for any period of time, you've heard of Wynn's and all their products that they have. And the guy who's been integral in all that for all these years is Bev Olshig, the Vice President and General Manager of Wynn's. Bev, get us started today.
On behalf of Wynn's, all its distributors worldwide, gentlemen, start your engines.
been 12 years since the rumble of the American Speed Association has been heard in Georgia. They're back, and TNN's here to bring it to you live as we get set for the Wynn 300. The AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN is brought to you in part by your GM Good Wrench service dealer. We want your business. Well, a nice shot from on back of the pace car. Strapped our onboard cameraman literally into the back of the pace car as we get set to get this one underway. The Wynn 300 here at Jefferson, Georgia, Peach State Speedway. We are just north of this big city of Atlanta. This is really kind of the racing area of the city of Atlanta. Sure, the Atlanta Motor Speedway is on the far south end, but up here you got Peach State, you got Lanier, you got Road Atlanta. A lot of racetracks up here on this side of the city of Atlanta. Let's show you the grid now for the Wynn 300 as we get set to go racing here today. Front row, Gary St. Amant grabs the pole, the only driver to dip into the 17s. And Kevin Wynn Sawinski, that's what we called him last year as he picked up 3 wins. We'll start alongside of it.
In row 2, Jake Smokestack, we talked about his great qualifying run. Bob Seneca, an excellent run in 4th in the Bluebird.
Back into row number 3, Scott Hansen driving Kenny Schrader's ASA car, and Brett Bell, the youngster out of Northern California. He's qualifying much better this year.
We go to row 4 to find Rick Beebe, who practiced here and said the track was completely different yesterday, and the rookie, Tim Sauter.
Back into row number 5, you find a pair of Pontiacs. Mike Garvey, his first start with the Tour in 1997, and Steve Carlson, one of the hot shots for the Rookie of the Year award.
Qualifying the 11th spot was Brad Loney, a winner last year at Toledo Speedway, and Jack Landis, who led 75 laps in the season opener.
Into row number 7, Joe Knott picked up his first win in the 96 season, and Harold Fair burned his feet again. He's done that more than once in this season, or in this tour, but he can keep him nice and cool today.
In row 8, Buddy Schrock, Speed Racer, will start his Chevrolet inside of Brandon Sperling in the Blizzard Motorsports Chevrolet.
Row number 9, this is where we get into that really interesting middle portion. Mike Miller, who makes his home in the Atlanta area, and Junior Handley, the best ever to come out of Canada with fenders on.
In row 10, we find Mike Eddy, the ultimate guy to beat here in ASA, and Steve Holtzhausen, qualified 20th. You'll have a lot of cars to pass today.
Boy, those are going to be 2 fun rows to watch. The former place kicker for the 5-time world champion 49ers. Remind all my friends on this crew that work and cheer for the Packers about that. And Alec Pinsino in the Pontiac back in row number 11.
In the 12th row, we'll find Bill Baird, who had a plug wire come off in qualifying, so he may make a charge, and the Zero Hero, Tom Jones.
Into row number 13, Dave Sensiba. He's in a new car this year, and Billy Turner's driving an old Mike Eddy machine here today.
Qualified 27th is Peter Cozzolino in the McDonald's Ford, his first of 5 starts in the season. And Tim Taylor looking for rookie efforts out of Indianapolis.
Working our back way to row number 15, Kurt Huff, who's chasing the rookie championship in car 66, and Sammy Pegram in a Chevy, the bow tie, car number 92.
31st on the grid will be Dr. Yale Conley in the West Virginia Motor Speedway Chevrolet. Outside of him, Aaron Huff in the Lee's Inn and Suites Pontiac.
And all the way back to row 17, Doug Mayer, great go-kart racer, getting used to racing in the ASA series. And, of course, a car dealer out of Indianapolis, Indiana, Ray Skillman, who loves the high banks in the Pontiac.
And a Canadian relocated to Georgia, John Cadman, running in front of a hometown crowd in his number 71 Ford.
So that's a look at the lineup for today's race. Mike Miller, of course, is the one that we all turned to when we first came here to find out what this place is all about and what it would take to win here. Mike, driving the AFC 1000 Pontiac, is more than happy to tell us about this racetrack in Jefferson.
Well, you got to be low getting off the corners. I mean, right now we're real tighter. We're pushing off both corners, and we're low. You know, I shudder to think how bad it would push if we were up high, you know. Ooh.
Some of the things to keep an eye on when you come racing here. What everybody's told me, you see that yellow line there, Jim, don't dip your wheels below that yellow line. You'll be in big trouble if you put them down there. This is a half mile. A lot of people say that it's a high-banked half mile and that it looks like places like Toledo and I-70, but it doesn't race that way.
It's a big, wide, sweeping racetrack. Yes, they run on the bottom groove like Toledo, but the 18-degree banking and the 12-degree banking on the straights really get the guys flipping. 100 miles per hour average speed on this Peach State Speedway half mile.
As you go down into the turns, Gary St. Amant, who drives that Wynn's machine right there, the number 7, Says you go into the corners and you really don't even start turning till you get to the middle of the apex. You almost drive straight into the turn till you get all the way to the center and then turn it, which is a little bit different than some of the other high bank tracks we go to, where as soon as you get into the turn, you're turning all the way through.
We'll keep our eye on turn 4. That is the spot to watch, according to many of the drivers in this field today.
Gary St. Amant and Kevin Sawinski lead him to the green flag for the Wynn's 300 from Peach State Speedway. The Chevy. Oh, look at Sawinski. He's dipping those wheels down there, as does St. Amant. They both said that's a scary thing to do. These opening laps, I guess they're feeling pretty confident.
With this expanded 35-car field, lapping situations will come into play. These drivers want to get some distance, get some cars a lap down, as Jack Landis really parlayed the Kenley race to his hand. He lapped off with the top 7 cars early on in the race, and it really set the tone for the remainder. So these guys want to get to a quick start.
There's Sauter in the 55. There's Brett Bell, the Wonder Bar, the red machine with the big 56 on the side. Right behind him comes Mike Garvey, new ride for him. That's an interesting story.
Mike Garvey was called on Monday morning by car wreck Jerry Gunderman. This is the car that Matt Kenseth piloted to second place, or the team anyway, to second place at Kenley, and took the point lead in the rookie standings. Matt Kenseth took a job running for Robbie Reiser in the Busch Series. Mike Garvey got the call. Garvey will be in the Wisconsin Aviation number 8 the rest of the season, running out of the shops in Franklin, Wisconsin.
Of course, Scott Hansen for many years, the man behind the wheel for Jerry Gunderman, now driving for Kenny Schrader and Rick Hendrick.
And Garvey knows how good this ride is. Matt Kenseth was in it for just a few races, one last year, one this year. Hansen had a great run. Other drivers that drove for this team include Mark Martin, Alan Kowicki.
Oh, we got problems on the front straightaway, Jim. We got the 58, that's Billy Turner. That's the old Mike Eddy machine, car number 58. Into the wall. This looks like he's got some heavy damage to it, too. You see the back end all banged up.
Billy Turner took the right side of his right rear of the car on the inside pit wall. Again, this track is wide, but the banking at 12 degrees really sent him spiraling towards the front straightaway inside wall, and you can see he's not too happy.
El Reno, Oklahoma. That's where Billy Turner hails from. That's a long way to come from just to get a couple of laps in. Let's take a look at this from down on the racetrack. Well, it's hard to see. You saw the dust kick up as they got up into the wall there.
May have been Dave Sensiva in the mix there, and that red and white number 6, he may have got a little bit wide, and as the car started to check up, because his car was so close to the outside wall, that might have turned Billy Turner to the inside. He obviously had help.
Dave Burns, can you tell us some more?
Yeah, I just turned away, check with Brett Bell's crew about something which I'm going to tell you about in a minute, but I can see, as you can, that Billy Turner's car has significant damage on the back end. Billy's okay, as I'm sure you've seen also, so he'll be back in it. But Brett Bell, coming down the front straightaway just a few laps ago, scrubbed the front straightaway wall, rubbed out the word state in Peach State Speedway. Talked to his crew chief. He's okay. Brett continues on.
Well, maybe it was Brett checking up and Dave Sensiva. You can see damage to Sensiva's, and we can see damage to Bill Baird as well. There's Bill Baird's Speedy Pop machine. And I guess it was probably a combination of all of the above that maybe everybody checking up got Billy Turner sideways and into the wall. Well, Bill Baird looks like he's going to head to the pits, so we'll head to the break real quick. Stay with us. We're coming back with plenty more from Peach State Speedway in Jefferson, Georgia as the ASA gets underway on TNN. We're back to Peach State Speedway. Roger Slack, black man here with the American Speed Association. You know, that race back in 1985, his father, Randy, did double duty. His own car finished 29th, and he jumped in the backup car of somebody else who needed a relief driver and ended up finishing 18th on that day.
And of course, Roger's grandfather, longtime involvement with the Cayuga Speedway that ASA had run in the past in Ontario, Canada, or near Ontario. So long history here in the 30 years. This is the 30th year of competition for the AC-Delco Challenge Series under the ASA banner. The Robbins family at the helm for all 30 of those years. And Billy Turner trying to put his name in the record books. Tried to run for Rookie of the Year a season ago. Had trouble making some of the early races. He knew how important the early part of the season was, and it looks like it will be another day for Billy Turner to compete here in ASA.
Gary St. Amant, on the other hand, starting on the pole and leading it right now. What's the story with him, Dave?
Well, he is leading, and that's great for him, but they've had to make some modifications in order to be competitive today. Look at this. This is the Inhuman pit board holder right here. They've got it connected to the war wagon here so that no one else has to hold it. That's because they're short on people. And speaking of short on people, the car owner, Bud Gebbin, he normally just carries tires. Today, he's changing them in the rear.
They also brought on Lisa Smokestead, Ted Smokestead's sister-in-law, to do the tire specialist work that she did a season ago for Ted in the 32 car. Great story about Gary. He actually got a lap around here in a pace car or a passenger car from Mike Miller. Mike Miller drove. There were 4 guys in the car. Gary was happy to say he thought it was great. He got behind the wheel. Mike actually told him the line. Mike Miller has many laps around this racetrack. Mike Miller wasn't smiling after qualifying. Gary Santamon was ear to ear. He beat Mike Miller after Mike showed him the quick line around the racetrack.
Well, if you saw race day earlier this morning, you could tell that we're spread out all over the country today. We're here in Jefferson, Georgia, but Rick Benjamin, the gang out in Phoenix, getting ready for the truck race and the Trans Am race later on. Of course, I'll have highlights of all of that and all the rest of the racing going on around the country today and around the world on race day tonight at 10 p.m. Where else but right here on TNN. Make sure you tune in to Kids Heartbeat and all the guys.
Single file restarts is the order here. Tire wear is a concern somewhat. They say the tires fall off in 3 or 4 laps. You'll see a lot of teams scrubbing their tires down the straightaways to get the debris and the marbles off so they get a clean contact patch or racing surface once we get back to green.
Well, Bill Baird is out again. Is he okay, Dave?
Yeah, Ralph, he is fine. That right front fender, they have ripped it away. It is only cosmetic. The car looks square, so Bill should be fine.
So the Speedy Pop back Chevrolet, Speedy Pop, of course, a popcorn brand. Had some?
Haven't tried it yet. Haven't tried it. They brought it up right before the broadcast a week ago, and I didn't feel like talking with popcorn in my mouth.
Green flag. Smoke coming out of the back of the Wonder Bar car of Brett Bell, the 56. No problems for Gary Santamon, except for the fact that he's got Kevin Sawinski glued to his back bumper.
Kevin Sawinski started on the pole a race ago, and he said the car was down on horsepower. They've got a brand new Teasar motor in that car running second there, the black number 1. And he darn near had Gary Santamon beat in qualifying, but Santamon just a tick quicker to win the pole.
Well, and this is a type of racetrack where that Teasar motor would be a good one to have. That's a motor that's known for having big power for big racetracks. When we used to run some of the road courses like Brainerd, where they had that 1 mile long straightaway, you had a Teasar motor, boy, you go right to the front, like Jay Slaughter used to always do over there.
Right.
So that could be a real good power plant to have here today with this wide, long racetrack. Well, as we said, Brett Bell was smoking. Looks like that problem is continuing for the Wonder Bar crew. That Ford Thunderbird. Brett going all the way through the car himself these days. He used to have some of the other crew guys doing it. Brett's decided, no, I'm going to do it all myself, and it seems to be his magic that gets him to the front in qualifying. But I'm wondering if when he banged the wall, as you can see the white dust on the side of the car, that had something to do with it. Here's a good battle going on back here. That's the 8 car, the white and blue numeral number 8, back in 8th position. That's Mike Garvey. Steve Carlson, the car that won the national championship with the ASA last year. Tony Raines won the title driving that number 87. And Tim Sauter, who's going to be battling with Carlson for the Pat Schauer Rookie of the Year award, runs right behind him in 10.
Tim Sauter did a great job at Kenley. He had an oil overflow problem.
Look at Carlson sliding. I don't mean to interrupt you, but did you see that? Oh, he's got a real loose race car. Buddy Schrock, the white and blue 35. Brad Loney, the blue and white 33, the Bun Saver car. And here comes Mike Miller.
He's up to 14th, and he's using the inside line. He got by Harold Perry, got by Junior Hanley. Now he ducks his nose below the 33, the Bun Saver car of Brad Loney.
Taking his time, working his way up to the front.
Again, we mentioned Mike Miller here in the AFC 1000 Pontiac did not qualify up to his expectations. He did a lot of promotions heading into this event at this racetrack leading up to today's race and has a ton of laps here. He moved down here in 1982 and has really put some laps on here and other racetracks like Lanier, Georgia, Lanier Raceway just down the road.
Currently running in 13th. You can see he's already picked up 4 spots. Buddy Schrock going under the Speed Racer banner. What's that name on the store?
Ooh, the Big A Auto Parts Chevy gets a little bit out of shape as well. Right in the center of the corner, Ralph. You mentioned how Gary Santamon said we don't turn till the middle of the turn on the out. In 1 and 2, Rick Beebe said it's like I-70 where you can really use the whole racetrack, but it looked like it might have bit the 35 car a lap ago.
Mike's still looking at that inside. I think he's got him now.
Buddy Schrock and that team Unidow 35 trying to hold his own, but again, we mentioned Miller's progressing on the inside line.
Oh, boy, we did not want to see that. Black flag for the 56, the Wonderbar Ford. The Coca-Cola also sponsoring that machine. Brett Bell, down pit road. And the crew will look it over. You can see where he hit the wall on the right side of the car as this battle continues here. I bet you that must have done something to the rear end of that car.
And the right front, either it's paint or the wheel itself getting sideways and a little bit wobbly, but it's all straight and to the front for Mike Miller. He started 18th, or 17th, excuse me, in this AFC 1000 Pontiac. Now he's in the back door of Joe Knott in the Valvoline Ford.
Holding on to 12th position now is Mike Miller. He'll go after 11th. Chris Bradley still spinning the wrenches on Joe Knott's machine, picking up their first win on the ASA Tour as a team last year, Lancaster Speedway. Now Joe says he's ready to start battling for a championship, not just race wins. Up front, however, this one is still all Gary St. Amant. The Wynn's Ford leading the Wynn's 300. Wynn's Ford, he switched. He's in a Chevy. We're coming back. Well, there's Brett Bell. Unfortunately, he's in the pit area, and Dave Burns is there.
Yeah, Ralph, he broke a Panhard bar mount, which I've got right here, if y'all can see it. He actually popped the seal on it, and so the seal is what they need to really replace, but they got to replace the whole thing. When he hit that wall, we talked about scraping on the front straightaway, it broke this.
Well, Brett will try to get that replaced as quick as he can to get back out onto the racetrack to pick up some valuable points. Gary St. Amant, meanwhile, is caught up to the backside of Bill Baird. He's getting into lap traffic now. We've already gone past Causalino in the McDonald's car, and Bill Baird is next.
St. Amant combining his efforts with the Bud Gavin operation. Automotive Promotions Incorporated is the owner of the team. Gary is still living in Columbus, Ohio. The shop and everything else is near Grand Rapids. Bud Gavin had put forth an effort with Dave Sensiba for 3 seasons now. Chevrolet stays. The Wynn sponsorship comes with Gary St. Amant in their efforts to secure the 97 championship.
Dave, you've got more on Bill Baird?
Yeah, we thought it was only cosmetic, but and in fact it may be, but right now the car is so loose that Bill just can't drive it around anybody. Crew Chief Tim Neal says it's really no problem. He's just got to take his time and hope for the next caution flag.
Now Bill's trying to deal with John Cadman in front of him, the 71 car. It looks like Cadman's pretty loose too.
Mentioned Baird had the problem in qualifying, and now his problems continue as the leader goes to the outside.
Well, Gary's got to dispense of them as quick as they can. There's Alec Pinsino, the Trim Class car, the number 93, the black and blue machine. He apparently hit the wall with his Pontiac. Seems to be continuing on.
Alec's team came down here a day early and worked with 2 cars. This one the best of the 2, and now just a touch against the wall on the front stretch with that one. See Alex a little bit off the pace here now as Ted Smokestead running in the top 5 now goes to his outside.
Gary St. Amant, the car that he is driving, was a machine that he drove some 3 years ago on the tour. So we now look at Brad Loney and Steve Holzhausen and the Zero Hero of Tom Jones battling out. Anyway, the car that St. Amant is driving, he actually drove 3-4 years ago. Then Dave Sensiba used it at Bud's shop, and now Gary gets it back. So he does have some familiarity with this car.
Port City connection continues here.
Look at this good battle going on here. Oh boy, it looked like Holzhausen got up into Loney a little bit. Looks like a lot of people are fighting a loose condition and talking about the tires at this racetrack. The Goodyear Eagles is what everybody uses here. It is a spec tire on this tour. They said the tire is fine, but this racetrack tends to put a buildup on it or chew it up a little bit, and so the tires stay stable, but the good part of the tire goes away after about 30 laps. And looking on the board, we're just past 30 laps now, so maybe that's why we're seeing some of this loose condition. They say once you reach this point, the tire levels off, stays there, and you can run all day on it, but you lose that really good meaty part of the tire that gets you your good full speeds.
And depending if the guys on pit lane were telling me the truth, we might see 2 stops, we might see 3 stops in this race. Some teams might come down every chance they get to change right side tires because of that 4 or 5 or 6 lap immediate advantage on fresh rubber.
There's Harold Fair, the number 81, the white machine. Unbelievable how he has burned his feet now 2 years in a row. And severely.
And
the temperatures on the floorboard of these race cars can be extreme.
Early in the season, as well as he did it a year ago, this is a long stretch of races in a row. It's a lot of healing time he'll miss because he'll be worried about him working on his race car.
Well, he's put about 9 different layers of stuff underneath between him and the floorboard, including some stuff that he's gotten out of the aviation world. Like Rusty Wallace has done a lot of work with that, and I think Harold's made a couple of phone calls as we watch this fight for 10th place here. So Mike Miller, boy, he's continuing to march up, right up behind Joe Knott, that Valley number 48. Do you think Joe's ready to challenge for a championship?
I certainly do. He had talked about top 5 finish a year ago. He won his first race a year. I think that really set the stage for this team to get to that next level. Mike Miller out of the box, Kevin Sawinski out of the box really have impressed me. Joe Knott, I think, maybe chasing them at the outset until he gets comfortable again with this new 1997 season.
Well, Mike Miller did a great job of setting him up, gets him to the inside, and takes the time and passes him cleanly. So that puts him up into 10th now, and looks like Tim Sauter's going to try to come along with him.
Sauter is a little bit loose as he goes to the inside to stay below Joe Knott. Joe Knott's actually taking an outside pass. Or take that back. Sauter wants to spot back because Sauter was running 10th. Now he's back at 12th. Maybe he had the tires overheat just a bit. He backs up and now tries to forge forward.
Well, we said the veterans would probably make their way to the front as this racetrack got slippery. We're seeing that with Mike Miller. Guys that have the experience of going on and off that throttle nice and smoothly and easily, not abusing the machine and certainly not abusing those tires, are going to have a big advantage here today. Here comes Brandon Sperling. Look at that, the 51 car coming up into the mix.
Very nice job. This team based in Cincinnati, Ohio. John Boskin preparing the cars in Glenn Allen Jr.'s shops in Cincinnati. And known as Brandon Sperling coming to this operation and running quite well early on here.
Brandon from Southern California, now calls Charlotte, North Carolina home, is one of the best youngsters on the tour. We're waiting for him just to get a solid piece of equipment to go racing with consistently. A lot of talent in this young guy. One of the best shifter car racers out on the West Coast. And look at this, Brad Loney, maybe going a lap down, as well as Junior Hanley. So the theory on Junior, not going to be good. Maybe this veteran is going to struggle here today. Wow, we almost went 3 wide. Loney is a lap down now, and Junior goes a lap down. And look at how loose the Kendall machine is in the 72.
Junior Hanley was extremely loose last race at Kenley. He ran out of brakes early on in that event. They've changed brake systems, changed calipers. It may be the same problem rearing its ugly head.
Up front, however, no problems for the Wynn Chevy. Gary St. Amant. Oh, and we've got a spin now. Cozzolino takes the McDonald's car around. The number 40 machine, Peter Cozzolino. That is a team car, and you can see the damage to the nose. Joe Knott.
Joe Knott drove this vehicle in 4 races a year ago and was the backup car for the season opener for the Bravey Ford team. Peter Cozzolino, a crew member for Joe Knott. He ran USAC sprint cars in '95, decided he wanted to go stock car racing, spent the entire year, and is still a very active crew member for Joe Knott's team.
Now we'll let Peter get it turned around, make a visit to the pits, see if they get it straightened out. 50 laps down to the scheduled 300. We'll be back for more. Well, that's where all the scores sit for the American Speed Association, as they're watching the Wynn 300 from up in the grandstands here at the Peach State Speedway in Jefferson, Georgia. Some of the cars took advantage of pit stops. We were talking about what was going to happen with the tires. Dave, how do they look?
The tires actually look fine, Ralph, but they've been given a new twist this season in ASA. The tires are new from Goodyear, you've heard that, but some of the subtleties that they have to deal with now are that the tires are a lot fresher in a lot of cases. In other words, they've just been produced by Goodyear. That's a lot different than a tire that's set for 2 or 3 months. Those tires may shrink by just a couple of inches, and so as you know, the game of stagger, the difference between the outside and the inside is played between a matter of inches. So as these tire specialists try to get the best stagger for the cars, they are dealing with a whole new situation. Now, is there anything good about green tires? Yes, there is. They're a little bit gummier, a little bit softer, and some of the tire specialists like that. So take your pick. It's really a tire war out here, and they've got some new twists to handle in '97.
So they weren't covered up with muck and grime and all that kind of stuff, Dave? Didn't look worn down at all?
No, everybody is, but a lot of the guys who are going a lap down, Ralph, are complaining about being loose. Nobody is tight, everybody's loose. Guys like Steve Carlson, who you've also commented on, are just a little bit loose, and right now, Howie Lethouse, his crew chief, says that his times are comparable to St. Amant. So not everyone came in. The cars that did come in included Buddy Schrock, Mike Eddy, Scott Hansen, also Tim Sauter, and Steve Holshausen. Those were the lead lap cars that pitted this time.
As you see, Bob Seneker sitting there in 5th as we go back to green. He's definitely going to be one to keep our eyes on here.
Running in 5th. Again, he had an excellent qualifying run in 4th. He just let one car by. He let Rick Beebe get on up there because, you know, Seneker works. He's the sneaker. He works the middle of the top 10. He works 5th, 6th. Doesn't matter to him. If he has a good enough car to lead, he'll lead. Otherwise, he'll let somebody else be the rabbit.
Are you shocked by the story about the tires?
Tires themselves are a different compound, actually the same compound as a year ago, but ASA now has 5 different tire compounds to choose from. And I heard that from a couple of guys on pit road, that even talking to Jim Float, the Goodyear tire specialist representing Goodyear here at the racetrack, he did say that the green tires do have a size differential that they really don't get a handle on. And the tires, basically, with that new compound, adding softer compounds to the series, has really made these tire specialists work that much harder.
Well, I'm shocked about the wear of the tire, because not that the tire was bad, but again, I'm surprised that it wasn't covered up and everything. To a man, there wasn't anybody you talked to yesterday or this morning that didn't say those tires are going to get abuse from the racetrack within 30 laps, and we were well over that. Dave, you got more on that?
I did take a look at Brad Loney's tires, and they were perfectly fine. They looked great. The problem was the stagger. They just didn't hit it right, or the tires grew a little bit differently than they thought they would. So the wear is fine. It is a problem of judging how the stagger is going to play throughout the day.
Yeah, apparently a lot of guys got to go to stagger school, because there's a lot of loose race cars out there today. Let's see what we can do here. Bob Seneker still holding on to 5th. Carlson in 6th, and the white with the red 87 right behind him. And the 8 car, Mike Garvey.
Garvey ran 10 races with the AC-Delco Challenge Series a year ago, and he led 89 laps at Kenly, North Carolina. He recorded a 4th place finish as his best run. With this equipment and this racetrack, I don't think Mike Garvey's going to be counted out anytime soon. They're going to wait for 300 laps to be over. You may even see that guy on the podium.
Did you notice who snuck into the back of that frame? It's that red 18. Here comes Mike Miller, chugging to the front. The Georgia native on the charge. That yellow flag really helped him out. That puts him up about 8th.
8th spot, Joe Knott is in 9th. In 10th is Brandon Spurring. 11th is Jack Landis. As we watch this tight battle, you can see if Mike Miller gets to run on the inside here, Ralph.
Well, getting around Mike Garvey is not going to be an easy thing for Mike Miller. He's got good middle of the corner speed, though. Did you see him close up on him?
He was about 2 feet lower on the racetrack, and when I talked to Joe Knott, he said there's about an 8-inch cushion there that if you get above that, you're out to lunch, and he's right on the edge of that right now.
Carlson likes that bottom groove as well. He comes up the inside of Bob Seneker. He'll take over 5th to the Bluebird. And you know, that's not the kind of thing that's going to upset Bob Seneker. That won't bother him at all. Just let him go. Be patient, run his own pace, and make sure he's around at the end of this thing to try to get in the middle.
63 laps are in, and on this big half-mile, tracks this size in general for ASA, the teams can go 75 or 80 laps before they really start getting backed up.
Mike Miller took a little bit of a look to the outside. He's going to try it again. Oh, can't stay out there too long because of Joe Knott coming up. That's the fight for 7th position right now.
Miller may have put up some pressure on himself this weekend, being at a track so close to home and trying for that pole position. He did qualify 17th. Now he's getting towards the front. He talked about being patient in ASA, and right now he's being patiently aggressive. He's working up on the backside of Garvey, waiting for an opportunity. He's not pressing the issue, but he certainly is staying awfully close. The white car is Mike Garvey. 18 is Mike Miller.
Garvey was a little loose coming off the turn. You can see it swirling around in the back end of the race car.
The higher the cars go on the racetrack above that yellow line, the worse off they are. The looser the car is, the harder it is to turn the corner.
But Mike really went down to the bottom, and Garvey shut the lid to the cookie jar just as he got there. Mike Miller coming from 17th all the way up to 8th position. A lot of family and friends here in the grandstands today, cheering on the local boy.
Past up Mike Garvey's exit, Sewanee, Georgia is where this driver now lives. The Michigan transplant, car number 8, running the ASA circuit full-time, picking up the ride one race into the season of Jerry Gunderman's All-Star Racing team.
Tim Sauter in the 55 behind this pedal doing a nice job too. There you see the white with the blue.
Sauter in the Leo Motorsports Racing Adventures Pontiac leads now Sperling for that position, and here we go side-by-side racing.
Well, this is that fight for 7th, and right now credit that position to Mike Miller as he gets inside of Mike Garvey and take it away, and Joe Knott going to try to come along with him as Sauter moves up to the outside of him. Great short track racing here with the ASA guys.
And Garvey just barely gets the door closed on Joe Knott, but Knott's not done yet. We'll see if Garvey takes that qualifying line, comes all the way up to the wall. Nope, now Knott backs off a bit.
Meanwhile, while this is happening, the Lee's in-back entry of Aaron Huff pulling down pit road. Problems with the 86. Mike Miller, look, he's already starting to pull away a little bit. Brandon Sperling mixing it up with these guys. Well, Mike was a big part of a great night for all of us last night. Had a big pig picking out here. Doug, the hog man Carver, supplying the pig and doing a great job of cooking it up. Mike brought a lot of the beverages out, and the guys from Kenny Schrader's group getting the hog man out here with the pig. We had a ball out here, and look at that fight continuing. It was great to see everybody mixing up socially as a big family last night, and then out here racing hard this afternoon on the short track.
It was great. Judy, Renee, the whole Miller team actually kind of served the food for us. They got it off the spit, brought it over to the table with a bunch of homemade desserts and stuff. It was a great time.
Sauter in that 55, and Garvey in the white with the blue number 8. Look at that fight. Boy, Sauter has really gotten a lot better and more aggressive this year than he was last year.
Crew Chief Terry Evans has this car. It's actually Terry Evans' first full-time job in racing. He's been around it his whole life. They have a shop near Milwaukee. Ed Ohilsky out of Arizona. I believe he's the only Arizona car owner. He's one of a 3-owner group, and he said he has about 50 people at his home in Arizona watching this race today in his living room.
Well, we're glad to have them with us. We're glad to have you with us, too, as we watch Mike Garvey trying to hold off the onslaught coming up from behind. That 8 car dancing around. Buddy Schrock moving in.
But with Garvey's...
Garvey gets hit from behind. Contact from Sauter, but he gave him the opportunity to gather it back up.
Mike Garvey knows the limits of this racetrack. We don't know if he knows the limits of this race car. He ran 10 races a year ago for corner Danny Hodges, and now he's at the wheel of Jerry Gunnerman's number 8. Brand new team. This is a brand new race car. Never been run before. Brand new T-Star motor.
Sauter definitely is faster, Jim. Look, he gave him a lot of room to gather it back up, and he is close right back up on him. Now he's coming to the outside. Jim, of course, the son of Jim Sauter and the brother to Jay, who drives for Richard Childress on the truck tour. And boy, he's got a quick race car here today. He's going right around the outside of Garvey. Not a problem.
Joe Knott and Buddy Schrock now breathing hard down the backside of Garvey. They'll make it a mix-up in a minute here. We see the 48 of Joe Knott and Buddy Schrock putting as much pressure on Knott as Sauter did a lap ago on Garvey before he got by.
Well, let's take a look at that bump again. If you like banging and having at it in short track racing, here's a good bit of it right here. Look at that.
Hello.
See Joe Knott hard on the binders as a nose dipped on the Valvoline Ford. He gave him room to gather back up. And we continue on with Gary St. Amant out in front of the Wynn's 300 behind the wheel of the Wynn Chevy. Stay with us. We'll be right back for more. Gary St. Amant continues to lead, and Alec Pinsino has had a problem on the backstretch, and while all of that was taking place, the 27 of Ray Skillman, the Kendall Oil DuPont Pontiac, went behind the wall. So a lot of things, just as we come back out of the commercial break. Alec Pinsino, that's the second time he's had a problem here today.
Rushed the wall a bit ago. Again, he brought 2 cars to this racetrack. Thought he was running the other car here, but this one was a whole lot better on the race circuit. He made it through the qualifying race yesterday and found a problem in turn 2. He spun down to the infield, and that's why we're under our 3rd caution this afternoon. 87 laps are in, so this is about the window. We'll see a bunch of right side tire changes for those teams, other than the 6 that pitted earlier on lead lap.
And it seemed to make a big difference for some of those guys. We were noting through the break, as you see the 88 of Mike Eddy coming in. He had pitted earlier on, took tires, and came all the way back up through the field, all the way back up to 14. Now here comes Gary St. Amant. He's going to take the Wynn Chevy down pit road. They're going to go to work on him. And down below that, you see Kevin Sawinski, who's been holding on to 2nd place. He's getting worked on that car as well. Boy, good stop for them. Oh, he stalled it. And Dave Burns is in Gary St. Amant's pit.
Ralph, they're having a great pit stop, right sides down, and it looks like, boy, almost a dead tide in line there. Sawinski thinks he got out first. But surprise, surprise, guys, they are not changing a thing on Gary St. Amant's car. He's been saying the car feels real good, and they're going to leave it that way. Now, quickly, the brothers Huff are having kind of a rough day. You saw Aaron come in a little bit earlier. He had a flat left rear tire. Kurt Huff has retired the New Palestine Drywall Pontiac earlier today. He had a rear end go bad on that car, so he's parked it for the day.
Well, we're going to have to leave this up to the ASA officials, I think, here, Jim. These two drivers think they both got it. First one to the white stripe gets the lead spot here.
There is.
Oh, that's tight.
Fred, the sign man, has to make that call. He's right on the line on the inside there.
And I'm glad my name ain't Fred right now, because that would be an awfully tough call to make.
Well, if there are any situations where it's a dead heat at the line or at a line down the pit lane, they will start them side by side if they have to. If it's an absolute can't make their mind up, they'll start them side by side on a restart.
We might just see that here, because I wouldn't be able to call it right now. Well, we're going to give the ASA officials a couple of seconds to figure it out. Ray Skelman talking things over with the crew. We'll be right back to Peach State Speedway after this.
Was it?
Commercial transportation for this telecast has been provided by Ryder, the official transportation company for Opryland. Well, they gave the top slot to Sawinski,
Yep.
put him in front of Gary St. Amant. And then we just went green for about a half a lap, and Mike Miller had some big problems.
Mike Miller came down pit lane a lap after everybody else did. He went back out on the racetrack. He was way back in the field, and he and Aaron Huff got together.
Let's go down to Dave Burns with more on the story.
Well, guys, this is not going to be a quick in-and-out pit stop. They're going to the left rear, and they think they have a broken axle. Now, interestingly, when Mike Miller tested here just a few short weeks ago, he had problems during that day. He broke a shifter linkage. So Mike is not exactly having his best days here at Jefferson Peach State Speedway.
Dave, do they think that that broken rear axle was a part of the cause, or what happened after the crash?
Ralph, when they went back to green, he was not up to speed, so he was actually out there testing the car to see if it would go, and obviously it wouldn't.
Big problems for Mike Miller. What a shame. He came into this race after winning at Kenley, his 5th career ASA victory as the points leader, of course. Was hoping to get a good run here and maybe hang on to that points lead.
He was running 19th at the time, the final car in lead lap once everything cycled through. We got back to green, so this is not the same caution. Mike Garvey pitted for right side tires. They got the green. Half a lap later, went back to caution. That's another caution. Mike Garvey came in and changed left side tires. Can only change 2 under any single caution in ASA competition. Garvey now, in a lap and a half, has 4 fresh tires.
Give you an idea how reliable these ASA cars are coming into this race. Mike Miller had over 18,000 laps on this car. He's 3 years old. You guys are having fun. Well, that's Mark Martin on the right. And who's the guy on the left, Jim?
That'd be a younger version of Mike Miller. Here he is at Rockford Speedway, 1971, in a convertible Ford Fairlane. As he looked back through his scrapbook, he brought out a picture of this great Oldsmobile Cutlass. This car won a ton of races. It was a brown car, then it was a red car, and the familiar number 18 on the side. Here he is battling at IRP with none other than Mike Eddy in his earlier days in ASA. Again, Dairyland Transport, the longtime sponsor of Mike Miller. This is the only time he finished on the podium at Kaukauna at the red, white, and blue race. Guy in the left.
Trickle?
In the middle is Tom Refner and Mike Miller checking out the trophy and the crowd a couple of years ago.
Of course, Tom Refner, Brian Refner's father, former ASA champion now on the truck tour.
And that trio of guys race 6 nights a week and run and won a lot of races.
Yes, they did. Mike Miller going to struggle a little bit trying to win this one today with axle problems in the rear end. Up front, though, we're seeing something we've never seen before on ASA on TNN. Tim Slaughter leading his first ever ASA race in the 55. Great to see that. I think this is going to be a team to reckon with a little bit this year.
He ran as high as second at the season opener, the Tar Heel 400, the first race for that entire team. They've got it together now. He stayed out on the racetrack. He's the only driver of the top 19 cars that did not come down pit lane. He now takes control in the Ware Chevrolet Pontiac. Kevin Sawinski, though, was the driver that beat Gary St. Amant out of the pits. He now tracks him down in that black number 1.
Well, let's see what new tires can do for you. How about David Sensible in the 6 car coming up in this fight?
He pitted on the back straightaway. He qualified just out of the top 20. He was 7/1,000ths of a second from getting on the front straightaway pits. He's pitted for the 2nd time now and has really made his way towards the front of the field. He said track position is so critical here. He actually missed that last stop. He stayed out on the racetrack to run forward.
Look at Sawinski and St. Amant diving around each other as they try to deal with Sauter. Now Sawinski will go to the outside. He's going to take over the lead. And now Gary St. Amant will try to deal with Tim Sauter. He's going to like that outside line as well.
There's your answer about new tires. They certainly are a lot quicker than Tim Sauter's used rubber right now going down the backstretch.
Whether it's a stagger problem or surface problem, new tires is definitely the answer.
Certainly is. As St. Amant goes to the outside, Sensible did not fit that time, so he was passed as well by this duo that started on the front row this afternoon. St. Amant had the lead. Jim Sauter, now Kevin Sawinski, the 3 leaders of this race. We're at the 104 lap mark in the Wynn's 300.
Dave Burns with more on Tim Sauter.
Yeah, I just talked to Terry Evans, his crew chief. You're going to see that car even out now that Sawinski and St. Amant have gotten by. They're pretty happy with it, and they decided that given the lap times Tim was running before that yellow, he would simply stay out and wait for the next caution. Meanwhile, Bill Baird has not fared so well. They continue to have problems. He had a rivet take down a right front tire. He's been in and out of the pits again.
As you look at Tim Sauter, Bill Baird did a little testing over at the local airport yesterday.
They had a plug wire come off. They couldn't find it. They thought the motor was missing. So he said after the last practice, I needed more time. I needed to get that car somehow on a clear area. He went up the road, access road, to the private airstrip, and he literally took laps up and down the runway to get that car cleaned out.
These two drivers didn't need any extra laps yesterday. They're getting plenty here today. Gary St. Amant to the inside in the Wynn's machine. On the bottom side, the black number 1 trying to hold him off, can't do it. So the Coleman Products number 1 goes back to second. And Wynn Chevy up into the lead.
Although Sawinski was a rookie a year ago, he won 3 races and finished 3rd in the points in that black number 1. He is learning from Gary St. Amant this racetrack. He ran here in an awful race in 1992, did Kevin Sawinski. St. Amant had never run here before. They're now trying to play out each other, see what strengths there are. Sawinski knows that St. Amant's faster at this point in the race. We're at only 109 laps in of 300, so he'll let St. Amant take the point for a while.
I think it's kind of interesting. You know, Gary is always a very positive guy, always upbeat, always considers himself a challenger. He didn't think he stood a shot at the pole. He thought, I'm at best, maybe just inside the top 10. He ends up winning the pole. And in talking about his chances to win the race, yeah, we stand a chance. But, I mean, you never really hear anybody say we don't. But he wasn't necessarily as positive as he always is, and look at how good he's doing here today.
And last year, he got early in the season. He was in the point chase throughout the year. And I think that took away a little bit from Gary's efforts on the racetrack. He's concerned, obviously, about points as anyone is, and gaining a championship is certainly a great accomplishment for any driver here at ASA. But now Gary's out there running, trying to win those races, and I think he's taking a different approach where the points will follow race finishes and better performances.
Would like to have improved on that 19th place finish at Kenley.
And overheating problems there.
Yeah, Gary always wants to be a challenger for the championship as we sit back for the battle for 9th. And here it comes. Joe Knott, the Valvoline Raby Ford, number 48, holding off the 7-time champ right now. Mike Eddy, the Goodwrench Pontiac. Well, let's check in with more on the Mike Eddy story. Here's Dave Burns.
Ralph, I've been down there, and they're very pleased with his car right now. They have put on a set of rights and a set of left, and Mike is good to go for a long time. Meanwhile, the Mike Miller story, they are going to try to get it back in. They're replacing the axle with a lender from, actually from Billy Turner. Believe it or not, that car, after it crashed, the rear axle was still good. And Mike Miller's comments, Mike said, guys, I guess rear axles are only good for 18,500 laps.
He's at 18,501. That's really a tough one. Mike Eddy gets the spot away from Joe Knott.
Veterans are rising to the top here. We see Seneca continuing to run top 10. This is the first time Mike Eddy's been in the top 10 in this event. He had brake problems that knocked him out very early in the season opener, so Mike Eddy well down in the points chase, but he's now trying to back up his 7 championships with a better finish today. Finished way back in 25th 2 weeks ago at Kenley, North Carolina.
Still haven't seen him get down at all, though. Very positive outlook on the whole thing. Dave Sensiba pulling off Rick Beebe. Ted Smokestack coming through as they all work around the outside of Alec Pinsino. Bob Seneca coming in behind them, too. The Bluebird still in the fight.
Daytona Auto Auctions on the quarter panel of the 6th car of Dave Sensiba. Sponsorship coming through Carroll Muscatton Sr. Carroll Muscatton Jr. not running. Carroll Muscatton III not running this series this season, so they've associated themselves with Leroy Troops, number 6, and Dave Sensiba. This car is a car he drove, actually Glenn Allen drove 3 years ago for Leroy Troop, and now that's back in their stables.
Glenn Beebe got right up on the backside of him now, cuts to the outside, and he'll take the spot away.
Beebe thought on. Turn 2 looked like I-70 to him. That's his home racetrack. He felt at home making the pass on the outside in the 18-degree banking. The second turn, half a straightaway to go.
Ted Smokestad now, the white, red, and blue number 32. Will take a shot at Sensible, see what he can do. And Bob Seneker behind them will watch.
Ted Smokestad's been extremely positive all weekend. He has an entirely brand spanking new crew over the wall. His dad, Doug, is still turning wrenches. They certainly have some great help. Dave Memel is the new crew chief. Jeff Doucette and his wife, Nancy, stepped up from Aspen Electric to help these guys down here. They will run the race at Jennerstown as well, but they are in dire need of sponsorship in that 32 car.
Yeah, saying that maybe Jennerstown might be the last race for them if they can't come up with some money. Sauter gets passed again. Obviously, those new tires making a big difference. See slice, but oh, look at Seneker come up. Smokestad, I don't think was ready for see him there. You see him jerk the wheel? Bob will take advantage of it and take the position away.
One thing about Bob Seneker is he will not settle in and just let you take what you want. He's going to settle in with cars he knows he can run with, put some laps in and get some rhythm down. This half-mile racetrack, they're touring at 18.5 seconds. A lot of turning, and they actually turn twice in turn number 4 because that turn is a little tricky. They come uphill on the front stretch. Here on the turn 2 pass again. Seneker on the outside, as Rick Beebe did on Dave Sensiba.
So Bob will come to the outside of Sensiba. Sets him up nicely. Obviously, we got a good second group here as well today at Peach State Speedway, and Bob Seneker takes advantage of it to put the pass on Dave Sensiba. Mike Miller waiting. As soon as they get their axle fixed, he's going back out onto the racetrack here at Peach State Speedway. There's a look at Kevin Sawinski in the number 1. He is now back in 3rd. As you can see, Steve Carlson has put the white and red number 87 up into 2nd place. I'll show you how that happened, too. Watch this as they come down and in and out of 3 and 4.
Sawinski slid high here, allowing him to get through. A lap car may have played a factor. Cozzolino on the inside. Sawinski thought he had room, but made his own opening, did the 87 of Steve Carlson. Little donut on the side at number 8, and there he goes.
Yeah, you can see him banging as they came out of turn number 4. Ted Smokestad has pulled the number 32 down behind the wall, so problems for them. It's not going to help the financial woes at all in that group. Let's check in with more on the Mike Miller story.
You guys, just in case you have never seen an 18,500 lap axle that is twisted and broken, here it is. That twist is not normally there, and you see some bobs and weaves in this thing that, heck, even if you're not an expert, you know those are not supposed to be in there.
Billy Turner's down there actually helping the team install the rear axle as we get a good look at the battle here. Now Carlson going around the rookie Tim Taylor out of Indianapolis, Indiana. Driving for Jerry Miller as the crew chief. 2-car effort. EMAS Emergency Services helping out this crew as they search for the 1997 Pat Sharp Memorial Rookie of the Year crown.
Of course, Kevin Sawinski was the winner of that title in 86 or 96, and he'll be the next one to try to get around him. Steve Carlson trying to capture that title this year. He's currently up into 2nd place. This would be the 5th time Howie Ledau has won that title as a crew chief. They can pull it off.
Steve Carlson's 39 years of age, 4-time Artco Series champion, so he's used to traveling, used to racing longer races, but those races usually require 1 or possibly 2 pit stops. He said he was looking forward to running ASA, getting comfortable with drivers he's used to racing with at special races, and also the longer races where there's 3, 4, 5 pit stops, and knowing he's got a great strategist in pit lane, his crew chief Howie Ledau.
Well, Ted Smokestad, as we told you before, went behind the wall. Let's check in with Dave Burns on that.
Yeah, Ralph, and don't forget he had a great qualifying run here today. Ted, what put you out?
Oh, we had a great weekend going, Dave. You know, qualified 3rd. We've had some great help from the beginning of the year with the Doucette family at Aspen Electric, and Pontiac has been a fantastic help to us. Unfortunately, something happened underneath the hood. It looks pretty terminal, so I don't see us going back out. We always like to finish these things. That's our #1 goal, to be there at the end, but I don't think it's going to happen today. We're going to regroup and see if we can't run in front of get in Pensacola.
Well, the battle for 3rd continues on the racetrack. It's the 1 car, the black machine of Sawinski, and the 23 of Rick Beebe. On the inside, the lap cars of Doug Mayer and Tim Taylor fighting for position behind them.
Sawinski again washes up into turns 3 and 4. And now Rick Beebe goes to the bottom. So Sawinski, as hard as he went into the turn, could not keep the car down. But look at the power he's taken on the outside group. And Kenly, North Carolina, at 410 Southern National Speedway, the outside line actually came in so well. Jack Landis and other drivers really put on a clinic, passing a bunch of cars. Here now we see it. Rick Beebe, though, taking the inside line, which is obviously the quicker way around this Peach State Speedway.
Well, we've seen some drivers use that outside line today as a positive to make passes, but you can tell from the way Kevin's handling it, he doesn't want to be up there. His car's not really working real well right now. To go to work on that next opportunity they get, maybe change the stagger or another fresh set of tires, and he'll be okay.
Terry Garrison and the crew looking at the 23 car, the St. Louis gear, number 23 for Danny Hodges. Rick Beebe behind the wheel. He got by Sawinski, and now he comes off at turn number 2. Sawinski in sight on the same straightaway, the 87 Steve Carlson. So as he now has clear traffic ahead of him, we'll see that gap close up because Beebe is really flying around this half mile.
Gary St. Amant continues to lead, and Carlson is running in second. Then it's Beebe, Sawinski. Behind that comes Bob Seneker. He's now working past the lap cars that Rick Beebe, who you're looking at, just dealt with. And Mike Eddy comes up behind them. That's your top 6. There's your leader. Gary just having a nice smooth day out here so far. The Wynn's West Michigan Chevy dealers Lane Automotive back machine, switching from a Ford Thunderbird body last year to the Chevy this year.
St. Amant about to approach lap traffic. We see John Cadman here in the Atlanta Auto Auction number 71. He's now based in Georgia, a Canadian native, won the first ASA road course race at Mossmore.
See Brett Bell's back out of the course as Gary St. Amant puts a lap around him. There's Carlson, the white and red 87. Clean burn number 87. The car that Tony Raines drove to the national championship last year. Now he let out the wizard with the wrenches on that car. Looking for his 5th Rookie of the Year crown with the driver. There's the good doctor, Yale Conley in the 3. Rick Beebe lapping past him on the inside. Beebe holding on to 3rd right now.
Rick Beebe has his own heating and air conditioning business based in Merriam, Kansas. Passes the vascular surgeon from Vienna, West Virginia. That was not for position, though, as Beebe now runs 3rd. Conley now at least 1 lap down to the leaders. Beebe really gets into turn 3 well here. Watch how low he gets on the racetrack. The tires are now worn a bit. Now the groove has appeared to be going up a bit, maybe even 3-4 feet off that yellow line.
Well, there's Kevin Sawinski, who puts his girlfriend to work on the race car every day, too. She was down there working on the front axles earlier this morning. As the guys, when Kevin first came to the team last year, weren't used to seeing a woman around in the pits. They realize she knows what she's doing with the wrenches, and they're more than happy to give her one and let her go to work on the race car.
Tracy Swiderski is not one to be messed with, as she is an extremely nice gal and gets very excited and gets behind this race team. She's like the leading, the cheerleaders, shall we say, but she also gets down and dirty when it comes down to race time.
Well, you don't want to mess with the JR Automation back number 84 either. The sneaker, Bob Seneker, had problems landing his airplane. He's a private pilot, flies just about to all the races. Him and some of the crew were flying back from Kenly. They were forced to divert and land in Grand Rapids, Michigan, because they had problems with wind shear. Bob's house, oh, look at this. Problems for the 28. Boy, he really pushed up in there, and that allows Brad Loney at 33 to slide up underneath. So Tim Taylor having problems for the 28.
Brad Loney running just outside the top 20. He's a lap down, and he's not the only guy that's having problems getting around this half mile as things are starting to grease up a little bit.
Watch Gary St. Amant, number 7 here. Bit of a bobble. Mike Coper, the Black & Decker, number 79. A lap car, but takes advantage of it. Slides up past Gary and keeps another lap on the positive, but it looks like he's about to lose that. Mike, a former place kicker for the San Francisco 49ers and Indianapolis Colts, probably one of the hardest working PR guys on the tour. He's been in the Atlanta area since Tuesday, making personal appearances and signing autographs and putting the Black & Decker car on display. Doing a great job.
And we see Mike Garvey going a lap down. He was running up in front. He was one of the favorites coming in. Garvey qualified 9th. He made a pit stop. He had a brand new set of tires under that car, and he's drifted all the way back. And St. Amant puts the 8 car a lap down the Metro Milwaukee Auto Auction Pontiac down a lap here.
Well, we are past the halfway point, over 150 laps in the books. 3 leaders, 3 lead changes. Oh, and there you can see the problems that Garvey's got. You can see that rear end dancing around on it.
Extremely loose race car from Mike Garvey. He'll try to keep the handle on it as Steve Carlson goes underneath. Carlson runs second.
Well, they might be loose race cars, but these ASA drivers show they're some of the best short track drivers in the business. As for the most part, they've kept those loose race cars off the wall. That's the view that Roger Slack, the flagman for the American Speed Association, has as the cars fly underneath him. Now, this is some interesting stuff going on here. Kevin Sawinski, the number 1, had been dealing with problems on the bottom half of the racetrack. Well, the 33 right behind him, Brad Loney, in the Fun Saver car, found out that the high groove was really working good for him. Sawinski's team picked up on it over the radio. They've told Kevin to move up. Look how good he's running now. In fact, Bob Seneker's coming with him. See the Bluebird back there.
Sawinski runs 4th. Brad Loney was ahead of Sawinski to show him that outside line. He is a lap down. In 5th now is Bob Seneker. Seneker goes high. Steve Holzhausen was running in this mix. He's now dropped back a bit, but we see these guys really working that second, or should we call it a third groove? They're well above that second dotted line in the turns.
Yeah, they're clearly into a third lane up there. Here's a look at the top 20. St. Amant, Carlson, and Beebe still your top 3. See Mike Getty, who started way back, is all the way up to 6th already. Figured he'd be a player before this was over. Brendan Sperling having a great run, hanging on in 7th position. Nice job by the young Californian. Scott Hansen and Kenny Schrader, Rick Hendrick's machine. We haven't had a chance to talk much about him, but he's running pretty solid back there with Holzhausen and Landis.
He found the outside line a few laps ago, but it was so far outside. It was a 3-wide battle off of turn 4. Hansen just hammered down and got that V6 down the front stretch and took this 10th spot.
Brad Loney's 33, who's dealing with Sawinski there, is back in 18th, trying to move his way up, and they are closing in some of the cars in front of them, including Carlson's number 87. So this could be pretty interesting. That high groove really working for Sawinski, and they're closing right up onto Carlson.
Sawinski is in 4th and closing up about 5 car lengths just going into turn number 3 is Sawinski in the draft with the lap car of Loney in 18th and the 84 of Seneker. Seneker's being scored 5th in the race thus far.
Boy, Loney is running right on the backside of Sawinski, too. Great short track racing here. These drivers really, I think, showing their mettle here today. Everybody trying to deal with a very tricky, tough racetrack, finding the way to make this track work for them, and they are finding it here today. Remember, these guys have never been here before. So a lot of people not knowing what they have to deal with, finding what works, and Sawinski showing why he's considered one of the best short track drivers in the business as he goes around Carlson.
Carlson had a check up in turn number 2. He thought Junior Hanley, a lap car, was going to get in his way. He moved up the racetrack. That allowed Sawinski to hammer down and get on by. Klingberg Pontiac down to the inside, and we'll see Sawinski takes over 3rd and 4th now.
Now look at where these guys are running. Okay, this is the cars coming up from 3rd position. Now let's take you up front and show you Gary St. Amant. Let's watch the 7 machine and see where he's going. Back down to the bottom. Well, he's kind of split the difference there a little bit now, isn't he?
He's led the last 62 laps and really error-free on St. Amant's part. No lap traffic has been a problem. He's actually been free and clear. We'll see if his radio communication works, as he's now at least 2 grooves up on the racetrack.
But he's still a lot lower than the guys that are coming up from behind. Let's see how long he can hang on to that. There's about half a straightaway gap right now between St. Amant and Sawinski.
Beebe now is running extremely quickly. He is now being gobbled up, shall we say, as he works through the lap traffic of Bill Baird and Mike Kofer just ahead. The yellow 23 car is Sawinski's next target.
Well, he went up to block the move as Sawinski closed in rapidly. Let's see if Rick figures out that the upper groove is where Sawinski's going to stay, and if he'll just get up in front of him. Here he goes again. Well, he keeps cutting down to the bottom. Kevin's not going with him. Mike Kofer's Black & Decker car going to get a good view of this. So he's going to be the next car just in front of him.
And the leader, Gary St. Amant, is exiting turn number 2, so all of these freight train drivers are catching up to leader Gary St. Amant. Beebe has been able to hold off Sawinski's charge. Beebe not nearly as high on the racetrack. I think it's a matter of personal comfort here. And Beebe running the middle group sees the train coming on his right side in that rearview mirror.
Yeah, he's running a line very similar to Gary St. Amant. Now it looks like St. Amant might be inching up a little bit. There's Gary. Here comes the pack. This This one's scheduled for 300 laps, and we're about lap 175 right now as Gary crosses the line.
This lap is clicking off. We've only had 5 cautions this afternoon. Make that 4 cautions this afternoon. A couple of cars getting together on the front stretch. Billy Turner and Brett Bell were involved in the first incident of the day. Really, otherwise, single car spins, and Mike Miller got some contact and broke an axle.
Well, you see the gap back to second place, just 1.4 seconds between Gary St. Amant and Rick Beebe. As they come back around, we'll turn that clock on again and see if anybody's closing in or holding them off.
Well, Beebe's been able to hold off Sawinski, which I think is very impressive, because Sawinski and Loney were coming. As Beebe moved up the racetrack, they were unable to pass, and Beebe now finds the higher line, the quicker one.
Good for 0.3 of a second, apparently, as he picked up some more. Let's see if he does it again. 15 cars on the lead lap. Working lap 177. Gary starting to inch up a little bit too. How about that? He's definitely catching it. Now it looks like Gary is moving up too. What do you think, Dave?
Ralph, I just want to tell you real quick about a couple of guys that have dropped out at this point. Ray Skillman is out of the race. He cracked a header yesterday. They welded together. He cracked a different one today. And Junior Hanley, they believe they broke a valve spring. He has motor problems. He'll be done for the day. Also, the rear end on the Dorothy Lynch salad dressing Cornhuskers Chevrolet of Sammy Pegram. He's done in his first ASA appearance, but he will be back, it appears, for the Pensacola race.
Now Brad Loney trying to pick up some spots, get into this fast group. And Rick Beebe seems to be the man on the mission right now as he hunts down the leader here at Peach State Speedway. Well, you haven't missed anything, but I think it's about to start taking place, Jim. This battle for the lead is really heating up. If you're just joining us, you're looking at the Wynn's 300 live here on TNN, the American Speed Association's round number 2 for the AC-Delco Challenge Series. And look who is up to fight for fourth. Mike Eddy, the Good Wrench Pontiac, the black 88, has caught the number 1 Coleman Pontiac, Kevin Sawinski.
He started 19th. He climbed into the top 10 about 100 laps ago, or 189 circuits in here now, and he's now working on the backside of Sawinski. We saw Brad Loney up there in the mix. Loney was a lap car. He actually got around Sawinski and Bob
Pass for the lead coming up right here. Beebe dives to the bottom to try to make it happen. Look at St. Amant fighting that loose race car. Holds him off. What a great bit of driving. Now Bob Seneker sits in third. Brad Loney is right behind them. And then this fight comes up as Mike Eddy goes to work on Sawinski. Boy, this is great short track racing. These guys, if you're just starting to watch this show, start on the absolute bottom lane of this racetrack, dipping wheels below the yellow, and being the masters of the short tracks that they are, they have searched all over this racetrack for the best group. They've now found it 3 lanes higher.
And what I'm amazed to see is that Rick Beebe will try to make that bottom lane work. There's no room up top to get around St. Amant, but we'll see if he does that again. And here comes Eddy on the inside. So if there's anything left on the bottom, Eddy's going to find it.
Well, Dave, we're seeing some exciting racing up here today. What do you got from down there?
Well, Ralph, I've been watching your perspective, too. There are cars all over the racetrack, including that high line. Now, and from Scott Hansen's perspective, they are running wherever they can, but they're loose every time. And I asked Lynn Miller, the crew chief, are you done playing with Stagger for the day? Can you put any more in there to tighten him up? He said, nope, Scott's just going to have to drive a loose race car. One more thing, guys. Be aware. Competition yellow coming up at lap 200. Watch for it.
And you saw Mike Eddy complete the pass. If you're a newcomer to the ASA family here with the AC-Delco Challenge Series, American Speed Association developed a thing known as a competition yellow as we go back to the battle for the lead. After X amount of laps, I believe it's 60 green flag laps here today. 100 green flag laps here today. If we haven't seen a yellow, the bunch to pack back up. The ASA throws one up to tighten up the competition. And I got to tell you, I'm not so sure we need to tighten it up here anymore today.
It's great for the fans, though, because it allows all the lead lap cars to pit together, which means it makes it for a tighter race. If Rick Beebe had to pit before Gary St. Amant and a caution came out, that would really make it a bad day for Beebe, but certainly is heating up on the back straightaway. That competition yellow in place for the fans and also to keep the competition closer.
Well, it has been 12 years since the American Speed Association has visited the state of Georgia. I think the fans here at Peach State Speedway happy to see him back after the quality of racing they're putting on.
And going into this race, we didn't know what to expect because Alan Kowicki won that race in 1985 after flipping his race car down the backstretch. It landed in the infield on Friday practice of that weekend. comes back and he beat Bob Seneca by car length to win the only ASA race contested here at Peach State Speedway.
Now there's Kevin Sawinski, who's got the Black & Decker machine of Mike Koper behind him. Koper is a lap car, but he's running quick here today. That's a great sign for him. He's a new driver on the tour, former place kicker from the NFL. Really stepping up his speed. Look at, he's staying right with Sawinski, and Kevin hasn't lost a lot of speed here.
And the owner officially on this car is St. Amant Racing. He's talked to Gary St. Amant. He has Bud St. Amant's interest and involvement in the team as well. This team is based not in Texas where Mike Koper lives, but in Indiana, and this team is really putting together a strong run under the banner of St. Amant Racing, which brings together a wealth of experience with this rookie driver.
Looked like Mike might have a little smoke too, but this Mike not having any problem. The fight for third is Mike Eddy. Closes in on Bob Seneca. Well, we might be seeing the competition yellow next time by. Gary St. Amant leading it. Rick Beebe runs in second. Looking to see if we get the competition yellow coming off of turn number 4. It's in the hands of Roger Slack, and we do have a competition yellow. So we'll take advantage of that. Take a competition yellow in our broadcast as well. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. As you see Gary St. Amant and Rick Beebe on the bottom, leading their pit stops.
St. Amant pitted all the way to the first pit stall on pit lane. Beebe just about dead smack middle behind Kevin Sawinski in the pits. Mike Eddy, a good stop.
Here comes Beebe, and there goes Kevin Sawinski. Dave, how was it down there?
Well, that was a pretty good stop. They put on left side tires, but they made a huge adjustment on the left side. Now, Mike, what was that adjustment you went to on the left rear?
We had to put a little diagonal in. The car was just real loose.
Okay, like everybody else, that was Mike Chaffee, the crew chief for Kevin Sawinski. They're fighting a loose problem, and as you heard, that's what he did to fix it.
Now there's Kevin Sawinski. Dave Senspa right behind him. We'll be back to get it started again here at Peach State Speedway.
We missed you. Well, I got you today.
Okay.
One of the great things about coming to an AC-Delco Challenge Series race is the fan involvement that you get to have here. We try to make everybody in the grandstands a part of the ASA family. You get to go right down before the start of the race and meet the drivers, get autographs, even talk to Miss Wynn's, Lisa Dickinson, as well as guys like Mike Miller. You don't have to wait till after a race to maybe catch him in a grocery store autograph sign. You come right to the racetrack and meet him before the race starts. And I think that's a really neat deal. And I think probably that's one of the reasons why companies like Wynn's gotten involved with the AC-Delco Challenge Series. Of course, Bev Olschick, the Vice President and General Manager, Worldwide Warranty Services, is a big part of Wynn's involvement with the ASA Series. What do you think about this? Is this a good sport to be involved with?
We think it's great. We're in the automotive business, and of course, this gives us a lot of exposure. And ASA and the AC-Delco Series basically will help us do a lot of things. We're real proud to be part of this today, and also part of the sponsor, official sponsor of the AC Series, and we're real proud to be here. Thank you.
You know, Bev, your guy is doing a pretty good job out here today, too. Gary St. Amant. Sounds like Wynn's and Gary St. Amant ready to make a bid for the championship this year.
Well, we tried hard last year. We came real close, and we think we've got a good shot at this year on the chef.
Apparently, we have a problem, Bev, down in the pit area. The ambulance is down there. Somebody in the Buddy Schrock pit. Dave, can you update us on that?
Yeah, Ralph, unfortunately, well, anybody that gets tapped here in the pits, it's unfortunate, but for Buddy Schrock, it was his brother Donnie, the crew chief. When he was working on Donnie's car, Brandon Sperling came into the pits and could not avoid him, hit him in the right front leg. Now, they're going to take him in and check him over, but Donnie is awake, he's alert, but he did get hit by the Sperling car in the right front leg.
All right, thank you. Well, obviously, the emergency crew's taking care of him, and we should be okay. Well, Bev Olschick, stay with us. We'll be back for more. We'll chat with you when we come back after this commercial break. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back. Mike Koper, the VersaPack Black & Decker driver, sitting inside his number 79, waiting for the crews to get him taken care of and back out onto the racetrack. He's pulled in back behind the wall. crew's been working on it. He's stepping up to speed, I think, here, Dave, when he gets back out on the track.
You know, Mike has looked as more impressive today, I think, than we've ever seen him before. They have a rear end leak right now, Ralph. They don't think it's a terminal problem. They're trying to patch it up and get him back out.
All right. Well, we'll go back to green.
Okay.
And as we do that, Brad Loney has taken advantage of that competition yellow, Jim, and moved up to back onto the lead lap at the tail end of it.
He stayed out on this competition yellow. Yeah, he weaved his tires back and forth on the start, but he's trying to get back on lead lap, which he had. He was 14th and on lead lap, but at the very tail end. And Gary St. Amant with those fresher tires, we saw it come forth earlier where St. Amant got around Tim Sauter to take the lead back. Gary now puts the 33 car, the Bunsaver Pontiac of Loney, a lap down again.
Notice what they're doing now with the new tires. Everybody's dropped back to the bottom.
They all put on right side tires, maximum adhesion, shortest way around the racetrack, and that's where they all qualified. And with that fresh rubber, that's where they plan on being. Now, before the competition yellow, Gary St. Amant came in first and went out first. Rick Beebe, same thing, came in second, went out second. Mike Eddy gained a spot. He now runs third on the racetrack. Gaining 2 spots is the Baker Motorsports crew with Steve Carlson. Scott Hansen also picked up 2 spots. He's at the very first pit stall. He picked up 2 spots. He's now in 5th.
There you see him right there, number 52, the white car with the blue numerals, trying to hold off 6th place Kevin Sawinski in that black and yellow number 1. Hansen still running a little bit farther up.
I was just going to say, I bet you that tire stagger move that Wynn Miller made in the pit area for Hansen was to run the outside line. Hansen is very smart. He knows what tire pressures, what air pressures he wants, what springs he has in the car. Hansen and Sawinski now going to school and figuring out who has the better grade right now on the racetrack.
And here's that fight going on up in position number 2. Rick Beebe on the bottom. Mike Eddy moving to the outside. Mike Eddy has not won an AC-Delco Challenge Series race since the first race of 1996 when he picked up the win at Lakeland, Florida. That's quite a dry spell for the 7-time champ.
And he finished 13th in points a year ago, looking to improve on that. He finished 25th a week ago. That's where he's stuck in points coming into this one. Now, after this race, point provisionals will revert to the 1997 points. So for any reason, if Eddy has problems qualifying into the field, they'll revert to 1997 points starting 2 weeks from today at Jefferson, at Pensacola, Florida. I knew where it was. It just was mixed up with the cobwebs there. We're going there in 2 weeks to Pensacola, Florida for the first ever ASA visit to that Florida racetrack.
So Mike up into 2nd place. Look at Carlson. Carlson came down from the bottom. Tell you what, if we were at a sprint car track, you just saw one heck of a slide jump. And Yale Conley, you see the 3 car trying to get off the racetrack. Now he gets off, so we'll stay green. So the good doctor have problems. Mike Eddy now going way up top. Here comes Carlson. You saw him dip the wheels below the yellow line, and you saw that car get out of shape like we told you it would do.
Carlson is running for Rookie of the Year, but he, again, like Kevin Sawinski, came from the ARTCO ranks. He's not a rookie when it comes to ASA racing. 14 ASA career starts for the 87 car of Steve Carlson. Never in a single season. He can only run 8 races in a given year for your rookie.
Oh, we stack him up coming out of turn number 4. That's Buddy Schrock in the 35.
And the 6 car of Dave Sensiba. Sensiba is running 6th on the racetrack. A great run for that team. Buddy Schrock staying on lead lap was up to 13th position. They got together off of turn number 4, and we caught just the very end of that, but it was a pretty hairy moment there as the rest of the field was coming on that outside groove right up to where those 2 cars were just getting back going.
Well, I thought I saw Bill Barrett involved in that a little bit too, the 26 car. Buddy trying to make up some ground, get back up into what he thinks is the position he belongs in.
As long as your car is moving on the racetrack, they will not send you to the rear of the field on a caution. If your car spins and you continue on and you're running 8th and you lose 2 spots and you get back going, they're not going to put you at the rear. They'll line you up in that 10th spot. This will most likely be the final pit stops of the afternoon.
Coming out of lap 222. Mike Eddy dives down. Howard Thomas led crew going to work. There's Carlson, the 87 machine, out of Howie Ledow bunch.
Mike Eddy
won the championship last year, having at it.
Notice Mike Eddy going to the left side tires. Bill Dorsey cleaning off the grill work, and now we see the Baker Motorsports crew going to work. Gary Donegan on the right rear tire as they get a good stop. Now they have a problem in the right front momentarily. Just that little bit cost them.
Well, they still get out in front of Mike Eddy. And in Rick Beebe's pit is where Dave Burns was.
Yeah, Ralph, they had a great stop. Rip came in and stopped on a dime. They went to the right side, changed both right side tires, and got him out of here very quickly. They're good to go to the end. Obviously, everyone else is. This is the change that most of them are waiting for. You won't see guys quite as lost now. This ought to be a great last 77 laps.
Well, Rick Beebe will see what he can do as we get set to watch the finale of the Wynn 300 for Peach State Speedway. Stay with us. Welcome back to Peach State Speedway. Hardcore 4x4 for Sony PlayStation and Sega Saturn is T&M Motorsports' first video game. It has 6 different trucks with their own handling and 4-wheel independent suspension. You'll see fenders crunching, wheels busting, and doors flying off. If you're a race fan and you like games, check out T&M Motorsports' Hardcore 4x4 for Sony PlayStation and Sega Saturn. Video games are sold. So we've got a problem right here with Scott Hansen. Kenny Schrader, Rick Hendrick owned ASA car is up along the wall. And now he gets going. He was trying to stay up there to bring out a yellow, but it didn't work, Jim.
And Hansen was running in the 4th position on the racetrack. He did not pit under that last caution. He's running on the outside of Brandon Sperling. Must have got up into something and cost him well tossed him, actually physically probably pushed him way up in the outside groove. He had to slow down to keep that car from hitting the fence, and that really cost Hansen greatly. As we find 13 cars on lead lap, he's now running 13th.
Well, Gary St. Amant continues to march on as he stays out front, leading the majority of laps here. Brandon Sperling is all the way up to 2nd place in the 51. This group back here is 4th and 5th. Mike Eddy in the 88 car is actually in 6th. 5th is the 87 of Carlson. And Steve Holzhausen in the 5 car runs in front of him. He's kind of snuck up there now.
Holzhausen's battling back here, and Steve Carlson to his inside as those two combatants who've raced for about 20 years on the short tracks in the Midwest go at it here in ASA competition. Brandon Sperling, as we mentioned, running in the 2nd spot, his career best finish in ASA at 9th at Anderson Speedway.
Oh, they stack him up there a little bit. Bill Baird trying to get onto pit road, and Joe Knott trying to hit his way back into the front, Dave.
Ralph, they actually had a pretty good first pit stop, and their strategy was they chose left sides for this last few laps. But when he got out on the track, before he had even completed his little warm-up lap, the right front went flat. I went and took a look at the tire, had about a 4-inch gash in it on the racing surface. So they had to come back in, change the right rear, and then send Joe back out. And of course, he'd lost many positions by that time.
Problems for Joe Knott, that Valvoline Ramey Ford.
Running in the 12th position is Joe Knott. Ahead of him, this battle has been going race long. Jack Landis has done a great job in that Adirondack 07 car. Tom Jones has been in the fight. And now we see Landis
going way high.
Jones is 1 lap down in 18th position unofficially now, but here's that battle into turn 3 now.
And Landis has got a lot of problems. That Adirondack, the Maisto Adirondack-backed car. Adirondack Speedway is a sponsor on that car out of New York. New racetrack getting ready to open up in the summer of '97. Gary St. Amant. Still no problems for him. Boy, smooth sailing wherever he needs to go on the racetrack. He's doing a pretty good job. And Cozzolino in the McDonald's backed entry loops it over in turn number 4, and no caution coming out. They keep racing, and Gary St. Amant's going to be the first one onto the back of the scene.
Can you imagine if that happened just a half a lap later? St. Amant coming up on the slower car of Cozzolino, that could have been a big problem.
He'd have been right in it.
St. Amant leading each and every lap of the Buckeye 300 1 year ago, the 2nd event of the AC-Delco Challenge Series. This is event number 2, and here's St. Amant leading the most laps in this event.
By far the most laps. We have seen a couple other leaders here today, but not many. It seems to have been all Gary St. Amant, Tim Sauter, and Kevin Sawinski, the only other 2 drivers that take a turn at the point today.
Let's look at Dave Sensiba. He pitted on the back straightaway. He started 21st this afternoon. He moved to the front straightaway pits when Ted Smokestead retired. He's really been in the hunt this afternoon. He had a great run 2 weeks ago in Kenly, North Carolina. And now we see Sensiba backing up with Leroy Troop's Pontiac, running in the top 5 again this afternoon.
Now, we mentioned the problems that Scott Hansen had with Brandon Sperling. Dave, do you have more on that?
Yeah, Lynn Miller, his crew chief, thinks when he went up into the wall, he is actually flattening that right rear tire. So they think the tire's going down. Then Lynn looked at me and smiled and said, he may do another Cedar Rapids on you.
Running a number of laps did Scott Hansen with a A-arm that was completely broken off. He was in a points hunt. The left front A-arm collapsed. That was a year ago in the fall at Cedar Rapids, and he stayed on the racetrack and had a top 10 finish. So his hopes here, maybe in the length of the race, we're already at 2:42. Maybe Hansen can last just one lap down and get a top 15 finish.
When it gets, oh, look at that. Dr. Connolly gets into Mike Garvey, and they've got problems. And Dave, you had something like, oh, and Mike Eddy threw the grass over in turn 4. And a yellow flag is out with Roger Slack. Well, we're hearing on the radio that maybe somebody is dropping fluids, and maybe that's part of the problem with everybody getting loose all of a sudden.
Brings out the 7th caution of the afternoon. We noticed the cars were starting in the lower groove, then moving their way topside. Mike Eddy doesn't spin that often by himself. It might be once or twice a decade because he is so consistent and so smooth. Liquid on the racetrack is the probable answer.
It'll be interesting to find out where that liquid is coming from. The early report was that it might have been up in the higher groove, which would make you think that maybe it was one of the front runners, because that's who's been spending most of the time up there.
At this point in the race, there is a definite speed differential between the cars, a lap down or more. These cars have soldiered on, but the leaders, with those fresh tires from the caution just 45 laps or so ago, have really put to work. And actually 22 laps ago, some of these guys came down pit lane that are once again heading to the pits.
Look at that. You see St. Amant was trying to fake him out a little bit, see if they'd fight. They all said, no, we're going in whether you do or not. St. Amant is in, Sawinski is in, Holzhausen is in, Mike Eddy is in, as is Scott Hansen. Dave?
Ralph, they go to the right side of Mike Eddy's Good Wrench Service Pontiac. Both tires come off looking fine, so there didn't appear to be anything wrong with the tires. And when I asked Howard Thomas, did Mike say anything about liquid on the track? Well, you know what the answer was. Mike didn't say anything, so as usual, Mike's just out there racing, concentrating, not saying much. But actually, Ralph, the front of his car did look like it had some oil on it, so there may be something fresh out there.
And a horrible pit stop for Gary St. Amant, 26.8 seconds. They had an absolutely horrible stop. Maybe we can get Dave to go up there and find out what went wrong, because that has absolutely decimated Gary St. Amant's chances here.
And Scott Hansen is back as a factor. He caught the caution and came in the pits as well, as did Kevin Sawinski and Steve Holzhausen. They all beat St. Amant out of the pits.
Well, races can be won in the pits and they can be lost in the pits. And we'll have to see if that is going to be the story for Gary St. Amant. Don't go away. Well, there's Mike Eddy out on the racetrack, but the problem and the story right now is with Gary St. Amant, who has led so much of this race, had a 26-second pit stop. What was the story with that, Dave?
Well, they were trying to get a hold of Gary before he came in, guys. Bud was talking to him on the radio. Bud St. Amant is crew chief, and they were trying to tell Gary to stay out. He did not. He came down pit road, and when he did, they were not ready for him. So miscommunication, it happens. It's going to happen, but what a tough time for it to happen today.
Here's a look at it. Watch, these guys are just scrambling. Look at the... Here comes the tire from the right side. You see, they weren't even ready with tires. The right side tire was already off on the front, and they had to bring another one around last minute like that. Boy, that every second like that kills you. When you've got to lug a tire all the way around like that.
And with the single file restarts, Gary St. Amant is nearly at the tail of this field. 35 cars started, only 10 are behind the wall.
Well, lap 249, we go back to green. So Gary St. Amant, in 51 laps, he's got a long way to go.
Brandon Sperling, for the 4th time in his ASA career, takes the point. This will be the 18th lap he's led in ASA competition. And Sperling in that black 51 shows the way. He did not pit, neither did Steve Carlson.
This youngster who comes out of Southern California, now making North Carolina home, started today 16th. He's had a real good day. Brandon and his father Norm have been on the ASA Tour for 2-3 years now, and regular fixtures on the tour. And I think a lot of people have felt that Brandon has had a lot of talent to shine with, just hasn't had the money and the equipment to do that. They think they have that now. Brandon leading this one. Former shifter cart racer. Have you ever driven one of those?
No, I have not. I've driven some 2-cycle and 4-cycle, and that shifter cart is a whole different breed.
I have, and it is really tough, and Brandon was always considered one of the best at it. Just to give you an idea. you how good he is. He's a good racer. Look at this fight going on back here. Some 48 laps to go. There's still a lot of positions to be decided in this one. And I don't think any of these guys, even a little bit deeper here, like Mike Eddy, are necessarily out of this one, Jim. There's some guys that, given a break or two, can get back in the hunt here and give this thing a shot.
See Gary St. Amant now getting smack dab in the middle of it all, and as he goes underneath Scott Hansen, Hansen and St. Amant came out of the pits together. St. Amant's already caught him back up to Hansen, so that trouble on pit lane has been overcome here as now he goes underneath Scott Hansen. But these guys are mid-pack. There's a number of ASA veterans that did not pit at all, including Bob Seneker. They're all in pursuit of that 51 car, Brandon Sperling, the current leader.
Well, they've got no time to waste. Look how high Hansen is. Boy, everybody using every available piece of asphalt here today. St. Amant slides up through them, and here comes Tim Sauter in that 55. That's the doctor, Yale Conley in the 3. Sauter was up front earlier on today.
He is now down a lap, unofficially in the 14th position at this point in the race.
Hansen looks like handling maybe going away on the 52. Not running as good as he was before.
He's trying that very high line. Steve Holtzhausen in that black number 5 comes along with him.
Oh, we stack him up over in turn number 4.
Doug Mayer.
Mike Koper is involved in that. Doug Mayer is involved in it, as is Bill Baird. There's Doug Mayer's number 11.
Working on his 3rd motor of the weekend. Borrowed a motor to Doug Mayer from Mike Eddy to run this race, and we see there's problems. It looks like the rear end may be torn out or left rear problems on this Black & Decker Chevrolet.
That is, of course, Mike Koper's VersaPack entry machine. See the rear end missing. Fuel cell exposed there. Backside of Doug Mayer's car. Well, Gary St. Amant needed this. We'll be back to see how this one shakes out. Stay with us. Again, this season, you have the opportunity to win a Uniden Bearcat scanner along with a 1-year Racers Frequency membership from Racing Electronics. Just send your name and address on a postcard to Racing Electronics, P.O. Box 24, 1921, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28224. We'll announce the winner during each ASA telecast on TNN throughout the year. So send in your card today. This week's winner is Richard Ryder from Warren, Ohio. Congratulations, Richard. Enjoy your scanner from Racing Electronics. There's Scott Hansen in the 52. Dave, got more on his pit story?
Yeah, remember we thought we might see a little heroic finish with him riding on a rim or something like that. Well, it didn't need to happen, obviously, because he got new rubber on the right side. The right rear was not flat. In fact, they just had a badly mismatched set, or they think that maybe when Scott tapped the wall, he did a little bit more to that car than they thought. Also, Mike Koper's crew believes that they will be able to get him back out. The damage doesn't seem that significant, so you're likely to see the 79 back on the track.
All right. And an update for you on Buddy Schrock's brother, who was involved in the incident on pit road. Just a sprained knee, we're told. And that's good news after seeing him taken out in the ambulance.
Buddy Schrock continues on in the 6th position on the racetrack. Now, Scott Hansen was the only one of the leaders to come down only driver on lead lap, to come down pit lane. As we're a lap away from green, Brandon Sperling leads Steve Carlson. In 3rd is Bob Seneker. 4th is Sensiva. 5th is Beebe. 6 through 10 right now, as we're closing into the finish here, are the 35 of Schrock, Joe Knott, Mike Eddy, Kevin Swinski, and Jack Landis. That's your top 10 at this point.
Gary St. Amant up to 11. Holtzhausen and Hansen round out the 13 cars that are on the lead lap. And we're back at it. Brandon doesn't seem to be phased at all at this point with these big guns pointed at him right now. He's doing a pretty good job holding on to the lead.
Championship team and an experienced rookie behind the wheel. The car running in 2nd, the AFCO Racing Products 87 of Steve Carlson.
Oh, there's some dicey moves being made here. Look at Mike Eddy cutting to the bottom with Schrock, and look at Joe Knott. They go 3 wide with Sawinski on the bottom and Tom Jones on the top side. Well, that's some great short track racing in there. Not a lot of room for error, though.
Within an inch of the bumpers of the 1 and the 48, it's the 1 of Sawinski making the pass.
Getty tucked right up behind Buddy Schrock, and watch this. Look at banging the wall in there. I believe that was Jones. Look at it again. You see him drift out wide. Tom gets right up along the wall. Everybody dives to the bottom. They all avoid him.
Jones last year was a living highlight reel, looking for sponsorship. Another spectacular run for Tom Jones. A great run here. He just got in the wall here late in the race.
There's Gary St. Amant, that wins number 7, working his way back up. More on that with Dave.
Ralph, we all know how emotional a guy Gary St. Amant is. After they had that miscue in the pits, obviously he was livid. Bud looked at me and he said, we're just telling him, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And that's just the kind of encouragement that a guy like Gary needs.
One of the most focused drivers in the field. Gary's somebody who puts a lot of thought into his racing prior to, during, and after.
This is 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th on the racetrack. Excuse me, 8th, 9th, and 10th. As now we see St. Amant there going around the outside of Landis. Jack has had a great run at St. Amant, coming back through. The top 11 cars now are all at the front of the field. No lap cars between St. Amant and the leader. Just all the cars he's got to race and pass on lead lap.
Well, he gets in a little paint swapping with Landis, but look at the lead starting to tighten up again now. Carlson closes in the clean burn machine coming up onto the backside of Brandon Sperling. On the backstretch, Carlson takes a look to the inside, gets those wheels down below the yellow, and I think he's going to get the pass.
Sperling had to push off of turn 4 to get on the gas pedal along Steve Carlson to take the lead. Our 5th different leader of the event. Actually, the 5th lead change among 4 drivers.
So Steve Carlson takes his turn at the point now.
This is the first time Steve Carlson has led an ASA event. He's running for Rookie of the Year, but he piloted Jerry Gunderman's number 53 car at the season finale at Jennerstown in 1995. He's leading the race when the motor went, so we'll see if things can stay together here for his new ride with Baker Motorsports.
And Howie Letow believes, the man who is a crew chief of this car, actually believes that they can not only win the Rookie of the Year award, but potentially win the championship as well. Sawinski, who you just saw battling with Mike Eddy, was able to clinch the championship for the rookie title last year, as well as 3 race victories. They did not get the overall title. They want to see if they can do that with this driver here in the 87.
Sawinski working on the outside, down the backstretch of Mike Eddy, right behind this battle here. Sawinski now goes way high in the line that Brad Loney showed him, and everybody took a liking to, way up on top. And here comes Gary St. Amant around, the 7-time ASA champ.
Yeah, that was a good fight through the turns down there, 3 and 4, and up the front straightaway. Gary clears himself, but Mike now comes up around the outside of Schrock as he goes after Sawinski.
He's got flying.
Gary is absolutely flying. He is. He is really a man on a mission. He's going to try the outside on Schrock. Sawinski trying to distance himself away from him as they fight for 6th position.
This is 7th and 8th. Sawinski finally wrestled 6th away from Buddy Schrock. In 7th is the 7th, the Wynn Chevrolet of Gary St. Amant.
Well, 25 laps are left in this thing. Do you think Gary can catch Carlson? Even if he catches him, he still's got to get around him.
I think they need a caution here because Carlson is clicking off some good laps. St. Amant is faster, but he's also a quarter lap behind.
The fastest car on the racetrack by far has got to be Gary St. Amant. The Wynn's West Michigan Chevy dealers, Lane Automotive Chevy, trying to make a bid for the championship this year, needs all the points he can get. Mike Coper is back out of the track. You see him circulating on the bottom. Now let's take a look at a time interval. Here's Carlson, the leader. First, second, third, the rest, 2.2 seconds back to Gary St. Amant. I don't know, Jim. I think he can make something out of this. I'm not saying he can win it, but I think he can get up here and make some noise in this lead crew.
21 circuits remain for Steve Carlson to hold off the pack. And again, St. Amant's running with lead lap cars, so every position he takes is a position in the points and on the racetrack.
That's right. Steve Carlson leads it. Brandon Sperling runs in second. Bob Seneker about to take that away from him, as you see. Gary St. Amant and Rick Beebe going at it. That's a fight back for 5th with 21 laps to go. Boy, this is some great racing going on here. Look at Sperling get pushed up high. Seneker's going to come through. And it looks like Sensiba's going to make a bid. And meanwhile, there's Gary St. Amant on the outside of Rick Beebe. And we got 3 wide racing going on here, 3 different lanes being utilized. Tremendous action with these drivers today.
50 feet wide is this racetrack, and they're using up every foot of it below that final white line. They've tried every groove on the racetrack. Sperling on the outside, Beebe on the inside here. The 6-car Sensiba, he's stuck to the bottom, trying to gain position on Bob Seneker.
And Sawinski, he's going to make a 4th lane below the yellow line. Boy, if you love short track stock car racing, we are giving it to you here in fine fashion today at Jefferson, Georgia.
Carlson has broken away to about a 12, make that a 20-car lead heading into turn number 3. Bob Seneker runs second. Sensiba's third, and just behind them is this battle. Rick Beebe holding on to 4th in the Royal Machine yellow car. That's number 23 of Beebe out of Merriam, Kansas.
Well, St. Amant all the way up to 5th. Carlson, with nobody in front of him for a while, is pulling out a little bit. Sperling trying to deal with Sawinski. There's a look at Carlson. He's almost half a straightaway away from St. Amant. Next time around, we'll be able to give you that differential in the interval. It was 2.2 seconds a little while ago.
Right, and that's when Gary St. Amant was right behind Rick Beebe. It's still the case where Beebe is ahead of Gary St. Amant on the racetrack.
That's a fight for 4th position. Carlson is trying to deal with Doug Mayer, a lap car, as this fight for 4th continues with some 15 laps to go. Beebe trying to protect the bottom. Look at Gary sticking that nose right up underneath that Pontiac.
St. Amant running the line through the corners on the very bottom. He learned from Mike Miller, a fellow competitor, showing him the line in a passenger car entering into the weekend. And certainly is paying off as he's now found that niche down at the bottom, gaining ground on Rick Beebe here in the closing stages.
Here's your interval. Now lap traffic comes into play. Peter Cozzolino forces Beebe to go up a little bit higher. I don't think he wanted to do that. It cost him. St. Amant takes 4th position.
Great run for that Wynn's West Michigan Chevrolet dealer Chevrolet team. They had that problem in pit lane, and St. Amant is doing everything he can. His job is on the racetrack, and the office is definitely plugged in and working for St. Amant.
Not to take anything away from Steve Carlson and Howie Leno, they've done a tremendous job to put themselves in a position here to maybe take this win. But boy, Gary St. Amant has done quite a job as a driver here today. He has fought his way all the way back up to 4th after leading the majority of this race since we began. Starting on the pole here today, you're really going to have to feel sorry for him having led 224 laps. Boy, your heart's got to go out to him if he doesn't win this one today, as he goes after David Sensiba now. He's holding on to 3rd. To the outside on Sensiba with 10 to go. Look at him slide that rear end around a little bit.
I hope he has time to enjoy this. He certainly is putting on a show for the fans here.
I'm sure he's not smiling on it right now. He's probably fighting his lip pretty good. Look at that 7 dancing around. Gary St. Amant sliding that Chevy. And Bob Seneker just in front of him. Sensiba tries to slide up and block him, does it, but St. Amant cuts back to the bottom. He'll stick it down inside of it. But he sees the cookie jar lid shut on him there, too.
That blue car ahead of him is Bob Seneker. He's running in the 3rd position now. 2nd position, excuse me. So Seneker could be a factor here. He could be the slowest car of the 3 at this point.
Meanwhile, oh boy, there's some touching going on there. Sensiba really trying to block St. Amant. Remember, Dave Sensiba drove for the team that Gary St. Amant is driving for right now last year.
Sensiba now taking over the ride created by Leroy Troop, who was a longtime owner for Johnny Benson Jr., Glenn Allen. The year Bob Seneker won his championship, he's driving for this team. So these guys are putting it together here. Another great run for that Grand Rapids, Michigan-based team. The car number 6 of Dave Sensiba.
Meanwhile, up front, Carlson just sailing along. The longer this battle goes on back here, the better it is for him. Because if Gary could just break free from this, he might be able to track him down, but he's running out of time. Sensiba is going high, going low, going everywhere to block him, but I think it seems like Gary definitely has a quicker race car. He just can't get a good, clean run at it.
What Gary needs to do, it looks like, is come down a little bit more in the turns. That's right where Sensiba's right side tires are running. Gary needs to get his car down there to get the run at Sensiba, but he doesn't have enough track, it appears like, in the lower portion to use up and gain an advantage here. He's running that outside line, but you see how much he loses there, Ralph.
Racing him hard, but racing him clean as Carlson continues to lap here at Peach State Speedway with just about 4 laps to go. Gary St. Amant sees the time running out, as we talked about at the beginning of the show. Time could be smiling on Steve Carlson instead. Could be his time in the sun. Gary St. Amant has got to be one frustrated race car driver right now. Oh boy, look at the runs he gets out of him in the middle of the turn, and Sensiba comes up. Gary's got him. That's third. Here comes second. He's going to get around Seneker as well. He's going to take second place away from Bob Seneker. What a drive we've seen from this driver here today. Steve Carlson, 2 to go. And Gary St. Amant is pulling away from Bob Seneker in them. You got to believe that he had by far the quickest car on the racetrack, and time is just slipping away from him. And the white flag is going to be waving for Steve Carlson, who's going to get a win here in his rookie season with the American Speed Association's AC-Delco Challenge Series. For Gary St. Amant, what a drive, but the sun is going to shine on Steve Carlson in victory lane. A champion's performance from St. Amant, but the victory goes to Steve Carlson as the ASA returns to Georgia after 12 years. The Wynn's 300 victory goes to Steve Carlson. A nice performance from Steve Carlson in his rookie season, along with how he led out this crew that won the championship last year. Comes back in fine form here today, but you gotta give a tip of the racing visor to that man. Gary St. Amant, what a performance. The Wynn's West Michigan Chevy dealers machine. Stay with us, we'll come back to talk to him. '85 was the last time the American Speed Association was here, and that man had quite a weekend.
Alan Quickie flipped on Friday, came back to beat Bob Seneker by a little more than a car length here in the Hardee's Ford. Quickie winning one of his 5 career ASA victories. Now, Butch Miller dominated the race from the pole. Here he picks up the $1,000 check for winning it. He led the majority of the race, and Kenny Lund, the 1984 ASA Rookie of the Year, picked up Best Appearing Crew. April 28th, 1985, the first ASA race here at Peach State Speedway.
Well, today, pretty exciting as well. The man that claims the victory is Steve Carlson, and Dave Burns is with him.
And I've kind of checked over Steve's car here, and there's one big old donut on the other side. But other than that, this thing's pretty clean. You had a pretty good show out there. You really had the thing hooked up all day.
Yesterday during practice, we set the car up to run on the bottom of the track, because the track's a lot like my home track. And the car got a little loose today, but after that last caution, we pitted there, and we got her tightened up. Way at the end, she was right there.
Now, you saw everybody else run the high line and everything like that, so you absolutely didn't need to run that line at all. You were just fine on the bottom all day?
Well, there was that one period of the race where we were all in the top. There was nothing on the bottom at that point. But we pitted, we got some tires on, and away we went.
Okay, well, guys, Steve has learned how to win now with his team. He just found out, though, however, that he'll have to buy tonight. So there's a lot Steve still hasn't learned about racing for Howie Leddow and the Clean Burn Racing team.
I don't think you'll have a problem with that at all after picking up.
And the crew spent an entire week trying to find a way to get here. Their hauler crashed outside Chicago with Howie behind the wheel. It took till Wednesday to find a hauler to get down to this race. What a long week they had, and what a great reward.
Victor Lane, a busy place. When we come back, we'll have a chance to talk to the man who came in second. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Steve Carlson enjoying the spoils of victory with Lisa Dickinson, Miss Wynn's, down in the victory circle area here at the Wynn's 300. And here's a look at the great moves that Gary St. Amant made here in the closing stages of this one as he fought his way back up into contention for this win. This 7 car.
Next to last lap, he's outside of Dave Sensiba. Sensiba has to check up a little bit because St. Amant's there. There's Bob Seneker running second outside of Brett Bell. 2 cars in 1 turn. Gary St. Amant simply ran out of time.
That's exactly what happened, but he's standing by downstairs with Dave Burns.
Well, Gary, it was a very tough break, but it's something that can happen to anybody. How were you able to mentally put that back together, pass all the guys that you did, and finish as well as you did?
It was kind of tough. You know, I banged the wall probably 40 laps to go, and just driving the wheels off of it, I guess. And, you know, everyone else getting up to the high side, I found that high side there the last 20 and picked off quite a few cars.
Don't forget, guys, Gary, even though he finished second today, picked up the most points of everyone. He led the most laps, and he sat on the pole.
He did a tremendous job, and we'll be back to wrap things up here at Peach State Speedway with the ASA right after this. Here's a look at the results from the Wynn 300 here at Peach State Speedway. Steve Carlson gets the win. Santa Mont, Seneker, Sensiba, and Sawinski, some of the cars in that top 10 that really put on quite a show at the back end of this deal.
And Santa Mont had to pass all these guys, including Rick Beebe, who had a good run. Scott Hansen recovered for 7th. Buddy Schrock, a great run in that Big A Auto Parts car, and running 9th.
Jack Landis comes home in 10th. Mike Eddy, the 7-time champ, comes home in 11th. He came up and challenged for quite a while. All these guys, Tim Sauter even led early on. Everybody here in the top 15 all had a shot at this at one point in time or another today.
And a top 20 for rookie Tim Taylor in his debut. He missed the first race and had a strong showing this afternoon, a couple laps down, but 20th nonetheless.
On back through the McDonald's car, Peter Cozzolino will come home 21st today. The Doc had some problems, but he finishes off 22nd. Poor Brett Bell started good. He doesn't finish but 27th. Junior Hanley, we were wondering what was going to happen to him. It was going to be a struggle, wasn't it?
Mike Miller, the point leader coming in, finishes up 31st. Sammy Pegram will run some more ASA shows, has a 33rd place to his finish credit, and Billy Turner will round out the field.
Well, that's going to close things up here at Peach State Speedway, but it is that car that finds its way to victory lane. We want to thank the guys at Action Line for supplying us with some of those great photos you got to see from the history of ASA. If you want to get a copy of Action Line, join up. Action Line is the official magazine of the American Speed Association. Everything that happens is in the Action Line. The Florida 300 from Pensacola, Florida will be the next one for you live on TNN, of course, Sunday, May 4th at 1 p.m. The ASA cars will be in action at Pensacola, Florida. Another first-time visit for us down there. Should be a lot of fun. For Dave Burns, Jim Trado, I'm Ralph Shaheen. So long from here. Two-way communications equipment for the AC-Delco Challenge Series is provided by Racing Electronics, the official communications of the American Speed Association. ASA Racing is produced for television by Silver Fox Sports, Charlotte, North Carolina.